Welcome to Angelo's Tennis. I just got back from what I would call a semi-professional tournament, and every time I watch tennis up live up close court level, I'm always reminded of so many things. I've learned so much from watching tennis live as well as a lot of the other things that I've mentioned. And I noticed this as I was watching. I noticed actually many things. So I was watching three courts at once, and I have video of it. I'll put some of it up there. And all three courts were different. Uh, and a couple things I noticed was there was a lot of long rallies. I mean, these guys were. I mean, average rally was probably 7 or 8 balls. I mean, some of them were going, obviously, with that being the average, some were going longer than that. Rarely did somebody just uh, come out one, 2, 3 points over. I mean, it did happen, but specifically with the players that were ranked higher, supposed to be better in the tournament. So that makes sense. Uh, One guy was hitting so many drop shots, and his drop shot was so good. Like it was just how I described in the channel. It was target oriented. You could tell he wasn't trying to do anything fancy. He just saw the opportunity and hit the spot with a little bit of backspin. They weren't great. And then the other guy was trying to make these crazy good drop shots with super amount of spin, and he would miss like in the bottom of the net, and like he wasn't even close. And he's getting mad at himself, and you could tell he didn't know. He clearly didn't know what he was doing. And like that was just a couple things that I noticed. But the big thing that I wanted to talk about that I noticed was the variation in ball speed. And I think this comes from a lot of the stuff I talk about in that book, being more target oriented, having your form being developed by what you're trying to do on the tennis court over a long period of time. And I don't really know what the correct way to say it is. It's not even the best way to describe it is not even just a variation in ball speed. What I think it is the way that you receive the ball. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have player A, and player A is hitting at a pretty fast pace, and player B is back there just kind of catching the ball and catching it to a target. So as player A, we could say, is really hitting the ball, and player B is more or less receiving the ball to where he or she wants to play the ball. And usually player A, who is hitting the ball, will be hitting the ball the entire time. They'll never receive the ball, and then player B will receive the ball and then occasionally hit the ball directly, and usually it will become a winner. And you could say this is you could also, another way you could put this is the offensive and defensive game, but it's not just the offensive and defensive game. And it kind of reminds me as well as some of the fundamental skills that you learn as a kid, or that you learn when you're first starting tennis. When you have the racket on the ball on the racket, and you're moving it up and down, and you see if you can keep the ball on the racket, and then you might hit the ball up in the air and try to catch it on your racket, and you see like the guys like Federer and some of the pros like him, they catch them on television occasionally, catching the ball as it's hit to them at a pretty high speed, and you can see that they've mastered this skill, or they've taken it to a very high level. And I think that's another good way to describe what's happening here. They have the ability. They have the ability. I've heard this as well, to keep the ball on the strings longer. I probably investigated this a long time ago. It's probably been a while. Maybe there's some truth to that's what's happening there. Keeping the ball on the strings longer. And that kind of goes along with what I'm saying with the idea of catching the ball on the strings. And that's what I notice when I watch these tournaments. There's many players that are really good at this, and there's other players that have no concept for this whatsoever, particularly in a match. And I don't necessarily think that the person that has this skill or that can do this is always going to win the match. But I do think over the long haul, the player who's better at this will win more matches, particularly if you are a junior and you're playing tournaments, or you're trying to be a professional player. Over the long haul, you have the advantage, and I think you will go farther than the players that don't have this. And you also see when you're watching these tournaments, these higher level tournaments, you see the ball. You actually see this in lower level as well. You see there's ball consistency with the ball going low over the net, be kind of like this back and forth, low over the net, same speed or similar speed, similar angles. And I saw a lot of that as well. I didn't see the variation so much. And when I'm talking about the variation, I'm talking about on purpose, not really by accident. You know, there just wasn't that much. And also an indicator when there was that much, I could tell because the points were shorter. The points weren't going very long. Players were coming to the net. Try to think of some circumstances. Certainly the drop shot, where you can think of the serve. If a player bangs a serve down the tee, gets a shorter ball, plays a drop shot. That's the easiest time to hit a drop shot. Specifically, when you hit a ball very fast at a player, and then it comes back to you, it's easier to play the drop shot as if you're in this slow rally and then you try to play a drop shot. Or even if you play the ball deep and the player's on the defense and the ball that you play deep is kind of top spinny and loopy, and then you try to play a drop shot. It's easier to hit a drop shot when the player is hitting the ball back at you with a low, in my opinion, with a low fast ball. And another example is if I was, I'm not on the court, I'm watching, but I know if I was on the court and I'm in this situation where they have this high-speed rally, and this does happen. I saw it happen once today. All I need to do is hit the corner, and essentially the point is over. And it's just a matter of who's going to pull the trigger. Who's going to pull the trigger first? And when the pace is moderately fast, but not too fast, and they're going back and forth low over the net, in my opinion, it's easier to pull the trigger and hit the corner consistently, as if you're in a more varied rally, like what I talk about with Nadal, where you're hitting the shorter target, the shorter side targets, a little bit loopy, lots of topspin, versus balls that are bouncing, that are, we'll say, long hit, low over the net, moderately paced balls. But even on the serve, you see this. You see I saw the returners, and I'll probably try to point this out in my video. You'll see the returners literally not moving at all, and it's totally underestimated that you could even hit the corner on a serve, like a topspin serve or a slight kick serve or a slice serve. Hit the corner. If you can get good at that at a moderate speed, that's better than hitting harder on, like a second serve down the middle, unless it's deliberately some kind of a body serve. It's almost a better play to make them move a little bit right off the jump, and you don't see that. I didn't see that very much at all, and I think this has a lot to do with that dynamic of back and forth and how you receive the ball and how you feel the ball off your strings. And this cannot be taught. This is the thing. These are the intangibles that cannot be taught. It's another thing you see when you're watching court-level tennis. You cannot teach this inborn athleticism. Everyone's different. This is another big thing I noticed. Everyone is different, and you can work it to a point. You can reach a person's peak. Different words, scientific words that are used are like fast twitch muscles. How much do you have fast twitch muscles? Do you have slow twitch muscles? Like essentially, if you have slow twitch muscles, you're almost never going to be able to play tennis at a professional level without having fast twitch muscles that are inborn. And you can improve everything to a certain point. Then you see these absolute freaks of athleticism on athletic fields and courts, and it by no means does it guarantee, especially in tennis, does it guarantee wins. However, that's something that I see that obviously is not taught. These things are not taught because they're hard, if not impossible, to improve upon. So why are we teaching it? We're just basically we're pointing out players' flaws and essentially you could say making them feel bad for something that they have no control over. And of course, there was the tennis pro in the background behind me. He had a little lesson with the 7-year-olds and had the kids with the orange ball hitting forehands and backhands over the net, talking to 7-year-olds about bend your knees and follow through, etc., etc. I was tempted. I was gonna film it. I had the camera. I was like, just let it go. I'm just gonna let it go. I'll leave the guy alone. He's been teaching tennis for a long time. I can tell he loves to teach because he's been teaching tennis for like 30 years. He's super famous. I'm not gonna mention his name. So I'm just gonna leave him alone. But yeah, that's my little analysis of the tournament that I was at. I could go further. I could go deeper, and hopefully, I will get better at making videos and get better at explaining myself. And maybe this concept will be described a little bit better in the future.